Well, we basically work for this media lab at University of Ottawa, and the research that we're doing is comparing um, independent cinemas from Australia, South Africa, and Canada.
Yeah.
And what we're specifically looking at is the way multiculturalism is represented through this cinema. So, so basically, we're going to be talking about Brocket 99.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. The tape Brocket 99, and then the film Brocket 99, rocking the country.
Yes. So, so according to you, besides, and you just answer a little bit about that, besides the actual tape,
Yeah.
what is Brocket 99?
Well, besides the actual tape, Brocket 99 is, might as well start at the beginning. It's a tape audio cassette made in approximately somewhere in the mid 80s. No one really knows who made it, but primarily it's the idea is that it's a few recent radio school grads who made a tape that parodied what it would sound like if the Aboriginals had a morning radio show, an hour and a half radio show, and they chose the town site of Brocket, which is on the Piikani Nation, as the location of that radio show to parody, and hence called it Brocket 9999, just like 95.3 or 101.1 or whatever radio stations around. And basically it just makes fun. They use the voices or caricatures of native voices, and then pokes fun at advertising and the region, and then mainly pokes fun at the main stereotypes, or the dominant negative stereotypes of Aboriginal life or lifestyles in Canada, and to do with drinking, not working, physical, sexual abuse, etc., etc. And eventually that tape, which was apparently just a joke, got passed from person to person, and then spread out actually throughout a lot of parts of Canada, especially, or mainly outside of the cities, where actually there is more of a relationship actually between Aboriginals and non-Aboriginals, or at least more of a visible relationship outside of Toronto, Montreal, and Vancouver, being the major urban centers that really don't have as high a visibility. And then also going to parts of the United States, your Dakotas, your, Arizona, maybe your New Mexico, maybe your Utah, areas where there are still Native Americans in somewhat of a visible capacity, which isn't like a lot of the areas of the States. And then eventually it went, it managed to go to Australia. People recognize the humor, stereotypes, and the relationship with Aborigines down there, and then other places that sort of got this sort of jokes. And then, and then over the last few years through the internet, it's had a new life again, as it's had a new medium to be disseminated upon.
Right, and why did you decide to go ahead and do this film? What was your motivation?
My motivation around making a film discussing or having many points of view discuss or dialogue around the Brock 99 tape was essentially the goal is to make a film about racism, or a discussion about racism, or the idea of racism in Canada. And for myself, I felt Brocket 99 was a perfect vehicle, since it's something that if you mention to somebody and if they've heard it, or even if you bring it up and bring up the idea of it, they really show, well, you don't have to do too much as an interviewer. They're probably going to talk for themselves, and they're going to talk a lot. And that's always key to any sort of interview process, is to have something that you don't have to force people to talk about. And so it seemed like a reasonable choice. And then the issue of racism, I guess I felt if I wanted to do a film on racism, I feel, and I think this is important, is that any conversation on racism in Canada starts with First Nations, Aboriginals, whichever area you want to talk about them in, and every other conversation is secondary to that.
Right. When did you hear the tape?
I heard the tape probably around 1990, 89, 90 in Prince George, British Columbia, which is about 10 hours, 9 hours, depends on how fast you drive north of Vancouver. I would have heard it, went around my high school, went around the whole town. It was a hot wave, and that's kind of, if you talk to people about where they heard it in Canada, it would have suddenly appeared and been around probably for 3 years where it slowly got around the whole town, and then it would have gone to another town, and blah blah blah. So yeah, I heard it for the first time in my high school parking lot. Yeah, in a car there. Good times.
Good times.
Yeah.
How is this story a Canadian story?
How is the story of Brocket a Canadian
Yeah.
story? Well, geographically, it's pretty Canadian,
Yeah.
as in the tape was created within southern Alberta. The content is, if you want to talk about that, also geographically is all actually about southern Alberta. There's mentions of BC and Saskatchewan, maybe abstract or offhand references to other parts of Canada or Canada in general, but really about southern Alberta. So that makes it fairly distinctly on the way it was manufactured and what it was actually about, and even more to what it was about. It was about, very specifically, it was a parody of the First Nations in Canada, and I don't know if that's necessarily truly Canadian. I think you can go to many countries of the world and seeing a majority make fun of a minority. However, in the context of First Nations, this tape was clearly about them and clearly about their specific stereotypes, and even the way they spoke in the tape is a common impression that many Canadians have of how natives sound.
Yeah. And how did you pick your interviewers?
Some interviews were set up before. They had some sort of relationship to the tape. Say there's Mark Campbell in the film, and his relationship is people think that he made it. That's so you set ahead, and there might have been a sociologist I want to talk to who first tried to take the tape, make the tape an issue in southern Alberta, and then. But then mostly, a lot of this film for me was based upon the spontaneity and the reality that people would talk about this given the opportunity if you remove the conversation from journalists, academics, and politicians. You bring the conversation where it needs to be, and it needs to be amongst Canadians, because we all grow up with this conversation. We actually all have to say, now maybe it's not what is PC, maybe it's not what people want to hear, maybe it's not what people think needs to be said, but people have something to say because they've been educated about this through many, many ways to date. So